It was a horrible year.
Challenging. Divided.
Hubris.
Illusion.
Dramatic.
A year of transition.
But what I think that 2023 will be remembered as is the time when democracy in Europe and in the United States became such a hypocritical cry call, such a hypocritical project.
At the beginning of the war in Ukraine, Biden said the Russian economy will be asphyxiated.
The sanctions we imposed have generated 2/3 of the world joining us. They are profound sanctions.
It's a continuous process that Russia is isolated, that sanctions will destroy Russia, that Russia will be defeated and crushed. This didn't happen.
Because no matter how many millions the United States and the Europeans, encouraged by the United States, were pouring into Ukraine, no matter how many armaments they were giving, it was not possible for them to help Ukraine to defeat Russia.
So you cannot stay away from the conflict even if you don't directly participate in this. We get used to see the rest of the world through the lenses of this conflict in Ukraine.
The Israeli government has already described Palestinian people as human animals, which means they do that to justify extreme violence, to justify denying them their basic human rights, and to justify the ethnic cleansing which is taking place. And even as I speak to you now, the United Nations has failed to pass a resolution to call for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza.
But the United States vetoed it.
We do not support calls for an immediate ceasefire. This would only plant the seeds for the next war, because Hamas has no desire to see a durable peace.
The United States and the West is increasingly losing its legitimacy as the leaders of the international order. Now nobody believes that they are mediators. Everybody sees when they veto things at the Security Council and so on, that they are basically enabling, if not driving this war for their interests in the Middle East. So one is the absolute loss of legitimacy of the United States and the European bloc.
And I think that is the clear sign that 2023 was the end of the global American hegemony.
And you see coming into being a completely new paradigm on the planet, which is not based on colonial methods and tactics. There are completely different trajectories going on simultaneously.
The spotlight in global economy is the rise of global south. If you look at the developing countries, many of them are growing faster, and they are becoming so-called emerging economies.
I don't believe individuals make history. It's the mass that make history.
Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, said that the real heroes are the businessmen. That's what he said.
Capitalists, successful business people are social benefactors. Ultimately, a successful entrepreneur is a hero.
No, Mr. Milei, businessmen are not heroes. The real heroes are people who serve the people. And those who serve the people in an adverse situation, like in a terribly brutal genocidal war zone.
I would say the most memorable group of people for 2023 are the Palestinians. They have shown so much bravery, they've shown so much courage, they've shown so much resolve.
All the world are with us, not with you.
لأن الشعب الفلسطيني لن يقهر وسينتصر عاجلا أم آجلا.
2024 will be decisive.
2024 is a super election year. Election will be conducted in more than 30 major economies in the world. It will touch upon more than 3 billion people in the world.
It's difficult to say whether it will make us more divided or more united. I think the only thing that will define that will be the actions that are taken after those elections.
Ukraine has cancelled elections, so there will be no news from on the Ukrainian side. But I think the destiny of the world in 2024 will directly depending from results of American elections.
I think there is a good possibility that Donald Trump would win the elections, but I said, everything is so transitional that anything could happen.
If you're asking members of or people from the African continent whether things will improve or worsen, we might say that they'll be the same. Because the policies that America has had towards Africa have been policies of imperialism, colonialism, and that hasn't changed regardless of whether the president was a Democrat or a Republican.
It's an important year for South Africa and the elections. It's 30 years since the fall of apartheid, the new South African government, Nelson Mandela walking out of prison. And so there'll be a lot of retrospective thinking. How far has this country come?
Everybody thinks that Keir Starmer is going to win, and of course if he wins, then the UK's support for the United States will not decrease, but that will only create further instability within the UK, because this support for the United States, it's not viable. It is not a viable policy for the UK to have any longer. And of course in the case of India as well, I mean, India has already, it seemed, many people would say, turned away from its sort of simply pro-US stance. So exactly how this pans out in the election, we will have to see.
There'll be lots of elections. Yes, that's true. But money power, media power, and then the advantage given to the right by history, these have to be absorbed. You know, elections aren't really free and fair. They are in fact often very expensive and unfair.
What humanity will do depends on what we do. We are humanity. Which means that our predictions about humanity are going to influence what we do. I don't have the right to be pessimistic and say, oh, bad things will happen, because then I stop acting and I influence others to stop acting. So no predictions. Let's just act in the interest of humanity.